Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting story. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. Okay, it's Wayback Wednesday on our military representation week. This is a story Joe's remembering about one of the most decorated soldiers of World War. I don't know. I think it's one. I could be wrong. Could be two. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. Anyway, I chose horses for our race. Are you ready? Here we go. Shout out time. Here's a shout out just for you. Let's try that again. Here we go. Ay, ay, ay. Shout out time. Here's a shout out just for you. You support me, so I support you. This shout out is for our friends. Let's see who it is today. Come on. Come on. Come on. There we go. Alright, so we've got JB, we've got Lower, we got Abundance, we got Guru, Supercalifragilistic, Frugal, there's Catching, there's Distracted, there's Wit, Really Haunted, Cruising, Fun? Oh, I can't see what it is after that. IO, Right, TNT, Bobby, M&J, Rook, Eddie, Jared, Amanda, Lynn, Keltha, Cable, Bluegrass, let's see, She Stole, Carter, there's Kaz taking off in the blade, Mayhem, Miss T, Boba, Lynn, and it looks like it was Versus. Hang on a minute. Let's see. Yep, it was Versus. Okay, my name is VS, and welcome to my channel. Name changed, but same great content. Tuesday is Talking, Thursday is Twisted, Saturday is Sus. Best way to know when I upload premieres go live is to subscribe, which we all know. And they do a lot of, I don't want to say drama, but they do a lot of royal stuff. Prince Harry, Princess Meghan, media. So if you're into the royal couple, if you're into drama, check them out, like, share, comment, and enjoy your rambling about a very interesting soldier man. Tell them something interesting. Or military-ish.
Military-ish in nature. You know, when I was going through some of the headstones, and you know, some of them obviously, you know, list medals of honor, you know, Purple Hearts, all sorts of medals. And one of the odd things that came to my mind, I was like, well, what would be like the ultimate medal winner in the military? And interestingly enough, there was one fellow who pretty much wrote the book on earning medals in World War II. A guy by the name of Audie Murphy. Now, he's a young guy that, you know, born into a large family of sharecroppers down in Hunt County, Texas. His father abandoned them. The mother died when he was a teenager. Murphy left school in 5th grade to pick cotton and find other work to support his family. Well, his skill with a hunting rifle would help feed the family. Well, after the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, Murphy's older sister helped him falsify documentation on his birth date in order to meet the minimum age requirement for enlisting in the military. He was originally turned down for being underweight by the Army, Navy, and the Marine Corps. Eventually was able to enlist in the Army, and he would see first action in 1943 with the Allied invasion of Sicily. Now, for the service, he would wind up getting an affidavit and was accepted on June the 30th, 1942. So a little after, 6 months. And according to his biographer, David A. Smith, the acknowledged birth date that was falsified at his enlistment in a 1950 interview, the doctor back home couldn't remember exactly when he was born.
Oops.
Nice, Doc. He said with a smile, so it was 18. Well, after training at Camp Walters, he was sent to Fort Meade for advanced infantry training. During basic training, he earned the marksman badge with the rifle component bar and expert badge with the bayonet component bar. Well, he was shipped off to Casablanca in the French Morocco on the 20th of February, 1943, and was assigned to Company B, 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry, 3rd Infantry Division, and trained under the command of Major General Lucien Trescott. And after the 13th of May surrender of the Axis forces in French Tunisia, the division was put in charge of the prisoners. He participated in a platoon messenger with his division at Arzew in Algeria in rigorous training for the Allied assault landings in Sicily. Now, Murphy was promoted to the private first class on the 7th of May and then up to corporal on the 15th of July. Well, when the 3rd Infantry landed at Lacascia, Sicily on the 10th of July, Murphy was a division runner. On scouting patrol, he killed 2 fleeing Italian officers near Canciati, and then sidelined with an illness for a week while Company B arrived in Palermo on the 20th of July. He would rejoin them when they were assigned to a hillside location protecting a machine gun emplacement, while the rest of the 3rd Infantry fought at San Fratello en route to the Allied capture of the transit port of Messina. Well, Murphy would participate in Operation Avalanche, the September 1943 mainland Salerno landing at Battipaglia. While on a scouting party along the Volturno River, he and 2 other soldiers were ambushed. German machine gun fire killed one of the soldiers. Murphy and the other survivor responded by killing 5 Germans with hand grenades and a machine gun fire. And then while taking part in the October Allied assault on the Volturno line near Milagro Montelungo Hill 193, he and his company repelled an attack by 7 German soldiers, killing 3 and taking 4 prisoners. Murphy was promoted to sergeant on the 13th of December. Well, in January 1944, Murphy was promoted to staff sergeant. He was hospitalized in Naples with malaria on the 21st of January and was able to participate in the initial landing at Anzio Beachhead. He would return 8 days later and participate in the first battle of Cisterina and made a platoon sergeant in Company B following the battle. He returned with the 3rd Division to Anzio, where they remained for 4 months. Taking shelter from the weather in an abandoned farmhouse on the 2nd of March, Murphy and his platoon killed the crew of a passing German tank. He then crawled out alone, close enough to destroy the tank with rifle grenades, for which he received the Bronze Star with V device. Well, Murphy continued to make scouting patrols to take German prisoners before being hospitalized for a week on March 13th with the 2nd bout of malaria. Malaria is kind of popular there in Italy. 61 infantry officers and enlisted men of Company B, 15th Infantry, including Murphy, were awarded the Combat Infantryman Badge on the 8th of May. Now, he picked up a bronze oak leaf cluster with his Bronze Star, American forces would liberate Rome on the 4th of June, and Murphy remained bivouacked in Rome with his platoon throughout July. Well, during the first wave of the Allied invasion of southern France, Murphy received the Distinguished Service Cross for action taken on the 15th of August, 1944. Now, after they landed at the Yellow Beach near Ramatoul, Murphy's platoon was making its way through a vineyard when men were attacked by German soldiers. He would retrieve a machine gun that had been detached from the squad and return fire at the German soldiers, killing 2 and wounding 1. 2 Germans exited a house about 100 yards away and appeared to surrender. When Murphy's best friend responded, they shot and killed him. Murphy advanced alone on the house under direct fire, killed 6, wounded 2, and took 11 prisoners. I don't think you'd want to piss him off at that point. Well, Murphy was with 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment during the 27th and 28th August offensive at Montélimar that secured the area from the Germans. Along with other soldiers who took part in this action, he received the Presidential Unit Citation. Well, Murphy's first Purple Heart was for a heel wound he received in a mortar shell blast on the 15th of September 1944 in northeastern France. His first Silver Star came after he killed 4 and wounded 3 at a German machine gun position on the 2nd of October at Lumet Quarry in the Cloutier Valley. 3 days later, Murphy crawled alone towards the Germans at Lemire, carrying a radio and directing men for an hour while the Germans fired directly at him. When his men finally took the hill, 15 Germans had been killed and 35 wounded. Murphy's actions earned him a bronze oak leaf cluster for his Silver Star. He was awarded a battlefield commission to 2nd Lieutenant on the 14th of October, which elevated him to platoon leader. While en route to Beauvais on the 26th of October, the 3rd Platoon of Company B was attacked by a German sniper group. Murphy captured 2 before being shot in the hip by the sniper. He returned fire and shot the sniper between the eyes. Ouch! At the 3rd General Hospital at Aix-en-Provence, the removal of gangrene from the wound caused partial loss of his hip muscle and kept him out of combat until January. Murphy received his first bronze oak leaf cluster for his Purple Heart for this injury. Now, the Colmar Pocket, an 850 square mile in the Vosges Mountains, had been held by German troops since November of 1944. On the 14th of January 1945, Murphy rejoined his platoon, which had been moved to the Colmar area in December. He moved up the 3rd Division on the 24th of January to the town of Howitzer, where they faced a strong German counterattack. He was wounded in both legs, for which he received the 2nd bronze oak leaf cluster with a Purple Heart. And as the company awaited reinforcements on the 26th, he was made commander of Company B. Now, this is where you kind of wonder if he crossed over into legendary stats. Now, Germans scored a direct hit on the M10 tank destroyer and set it on fire, forcing the crew to abandon it. Murphy ordered his men to retreat to positions in the woods while remaining alone at his post, shooting his M1 carbine and directing artillery fire from his field radio while the Germans aimed fire directly at his position. Now, Murphy would mount the abandoned burning tank destroyer and start firing its 50 caliber machine gun at the advancing Germans, killing a squad crawling through a ditch towards him. For an hour, Murphy did this, standing on the tank destroyer that was burning, returning fire from foot soldiers and advancing tanks, killing or wounding 50 Germans, sustaining a leg wound for his stand, and stopped only after he ran out of ammunition.
Hello.
Maybe they patented Superman after this guy, I'm not sure, but Murphy rejoined his men, disregarding his own injury, and led them back to repel the Germans, and he insisted on remaining with his men while his wounds retreated. It's like, I'm not done, just patch me up and get me back in there. For his actions that day, he was awarded the Medal of Honor.
What? Why?
No, I have no idea.
He didn't deserve that.
The 3rd Infantry Division was awarded the Presidential Unit Citation for its actions at the Colmar Pocket, giving Murphy a bronze oak leaf cluster for his emblem On the 16th of February, Murphy was promoted to first lieutenant and awarded the Legion of Merit for his service from the January 22nd, 1944 to the 18th of February, 1945. He was moved from the front lines to regimental headquarters and made a liaison officer. Now, we're going to break down his honors and awards because it's kind of awesome. You know, again, one of the most decorated United States Army combat soldiers. Interestingly enough, this is where it gets crazy. The guy earned all these before he was 20. Okay, you start going through all of his lists of medals, awards, Medal of Honor, a Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star with an oak leaf cluster, 2 awards, a Legion of Merit, Bronze Star with the V device, Purple Heart with 2 oak leaf clusters, 3 awards. In the unit military awards, Presidential Unit Citation, the first with oak leaf cluster, 2 awards. U.S. Non-Military Personnel Outstanding Civilian Service Medal. He got that United States Public Service Award established in 1959. Awarded for technical assistance in the Army's documentary. He also got a Good Conduct Medal at San Antonio, Texas. He never received the... It's funny, he was attested at Fort Sam Houston to San Antonio that he never received a Good Conduct Medal. He was awarded the medal the same day by Lieutenant Colonel Miller Ainsworth. American Campaign Medal for the American Theater. European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with 1 Silver Star, counts as 5 medals, 4 Bronze Stars, and 1 Bronze Arrowhead device. World War II Victory Medal, awarded for military service between the 7th of December and the 31st of December 1946, authorized by public law. Army Occupation Medal with the Germany clasp. That was for the occupation of Germany after the war. He also got an Armed Forces Reserve Medal. Picked that one up. It was signed by Harry Truman on the September 25th, 1950, and awarded for 10 years service in the reserve components of the United States Army Forces. For badges, he, of course, got the Combat Infantry Badge, Marksman Badge, Expert Badge. He also picked up from non-U.S. military personnel awards the French Legion of Honor, Grade of Chevalier or Knight, French Croix de Guerre with Silver Star, French Croix de Guerre with Palm, Medal of Liberated France, Belgian Croix de Guerre, a French Fourrière in colors in the Croix de Guerre. So yeah, basically this guy had medals going from his lapel all the way down to probably his navel. Texas Legislative Medal of Honor because he helped with he served in their National Guard. But now, okay, after all the war that he took part in, you know, the different campaigns, 9 campaign stars, that is a lot of recognition for one guy. Interestingly enough, when he was doing the machine gun unit on top of the tank, and he seized the machine gun, they asked him why he was doing it. He says, well, they're killing my friends.
That's logic.
He was just watching out for his buddies, you know. He was willing to fight for them. Well, after, you know, his service with World War II, inquiries were made through official channels about the prospect of Murphy attending West Point upon his return, but he never enrolled. According to author Don Graham, Murphy suggested the idea and then dropped it, possibly when he realized the extent of the academic preparation needed to pass the entrance exam. Murphy was one of several military personnel who received orders to report to Fort Sam Houston for temporary duty and reassignment, and upon arrival, he was one of 4 assigned to Fort Sam Houston, grounded in the service's redistribution station, sent home for 30 days of recuperation with permission to travel anywhere in the United States during that period. While on leave, Murphy was feted with parades, banquets, and speeches, and he received that belated Good Conduct Medal on the 21st of August. He was discharged with the rank of First Lieutenant at a 50% disability classification on the 21st of September, and then transferred to the Officers Reserve Corps. I mean, if you think about it, he was hit in the heel, hit in the hip, shot in the legs. They had to cut the gangrene out of his hip. So yeah, getting 50% disability, he deserved it. Also, and this was probably one of the first major cases to make note, Murphy had been plagued with insomnia and bouts of depression, and actually slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow. A post-service medical examination on the 17th of June, 1947, revealed symptoms of headaches, vomiting, and nightmares about the war. His medical records indicated he was taking sleeping pills to help prevent nightmares. During the 1960s, he recognized his dependence on the sedative Placidil and locked himself alone in a hotel room for a week to successfully break the addiction. Post-traumatic stress levels exasperated his innate moodiness and surfaced in episodes that friends and professional colleagues would find alarming. His first wife, Dixie Wanda Hendricks, claims he once held her at gunpoint. She witnessed her husband being guilt-ridden and tearful over newsreel footage of German war orphans.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Murphy briefly found a creative stress outlet in writing poetry after his army discharge. His poem, The Crosses Grow on Anzio, appeared in a book to hell and back, but was later attributed to the fictitious character Kerrigan. And to draw problems to returning veterans from Korean and Vietnam War, Murphy spoke out candidly about his own problems with PTSD. At that time, it was known during his lifetime as battle fatigue and shell shock, the terminology that dated back to World War I. And he called on the government to give increased consideration and study to the emotional impact of combat experiences and to extend health care benefits to war veterans. As a result, the legislation introduced by U.S. Congressman Olin Teague 5 months after his death in 1971, the Audie L. Murphy Memorial VA Hospital in San Antonio, now part of the South Texas Veterans Healthcare System, was dedicated in 1973. Now, again, after World War II, the 36th Infantry Division reverted to state control as part of the Texas Army National Guard, and Murphy's friends, Major General H. Miller Ainsworth and Brigadier General Carl L. Finney, were 36th Commander and Deputy Commander, respectively. After the 25th of June, 1950 commencement of the Korean War, Murphy began a second military career and commissioned as a captain in the 36th Infantry Division of the Texas Army National Guard. He drilled new recruits in the summer training camps and granted the Guard permission to use his name and image in recruiting materials. Though he wanted to join the fighting and juggle training activities with his film career, the 36th Infantry Division was never sent to Korea. At his request, he transferred to inactive status on the 1st of October because of his film commitments with the MGM Studios and returned to active status in 1955. Murphy was promoted to the rank of Major by the Texas Army National Guard in 1956, returned to inactive status in 1957, and in 1969 his official separation from the Guard transferred him to the United States Army Reserve, and he would remain with the USAR until his transfer to the retired service later in 1969. Now, interestingly enough, during an acting career which spawned from 1948 to 1969, Murphy made more than 40 feature films and one television series. When actor and producer James Cagney saw the 16th July 1945 issue of Life magazine depicting Murphy as the most decorated soldier, he brought him to Hollywood. Cagney and his brother William signed him to as a contract player for his production company and gave him training in acting, voice, and dance. They never cast Murphy in a movie, and a personal disagreement ended the association in 1947. Murphy later worked with acting coach Estelle Harmon and honed his diction by reciting dialogue from William Shakespeare and William Saroyan. Murphy moved to the Terry Hunt's Athletic Club in Hollywood, where he lived until 1948. Hollywood writer David Speck McClure befriended him and collaborated with him on Murphy's book To Hell and Back. McClure used his connections to get a $500 bit part in the Texas Brooklyn in Heaven for Murphy. He had been dating actress Wanda Hendricks since 1946. Her talent agent got him a bit part in the Alan Ladd film Beyond Glory, directed by John Farrell. His 1949 film Bad Boy gave him his first leading role. The film's financial bankers refused to bankroll the project unless Murphy was given the lead. Thus, Allied artists put aside their reservations about using an inexperienced actor to get him the starting role. Now, Universal Studios signed him to a 7-year studio contract, at $2,500 a week, an equivalent to about $31,700 in today's money. His first film for them was as Billy the Kid in The Kid from Texas in 1950. He wrapped up that year making Sierra, starring Wanda Hendricks, who by that time had become his wife, and Kansas Raiders as outlaw Jesse James. Universal lent him to MGM in 1951 at a salary of $25,000 to play the lead of the youth in The Red Badge of Courage, directed by John Huston. Murphy and Huston worked together again in the 1960 film The Unforgiven. The only film Murphy made in 1952 was Duel at Silver Creek with director Don Siegel. Murphy worked with Siegel one more time in 1958 for The Gunrunners, and in 1953 he starred in Frederick de Cordova's Column South and played Jim Harvey in Nathan Duran's Tumbleweed, an adaptation of Kenneth Perkins' novel Three Were Renegades. Director Nathan Duran also directed Gunsmoke and Drums Across the River. George Marshall directed Murphy in the 1954 Destry, a remake of Destry Rides Again, based on the character created by Arthur Max Brand. Now, although Murphy was initially reluctant to appear as himself in To Hell and Back, the 1955 adaptation of his book, he eventually agreed. It became the biggest hit in the history of Universal Studios at the time. To help publicize the release of the film, he made guest appearances on television shows like What's My Line, Toast of the Town, and the Colgate Comedy Hour. The Hibbs-Murphy team proved to be so successful in Hell and Back that the two worked together in 5 subsequent films. The partnership resulted in Murphy appearing as John Philip Clum in the 1956 Western Walk the Proud Land, and non-Westerns Joe Butterfly and World in My Corner, and then they worked together for a last time in 1958 Western Ride a Crooked Trail. Joseph L. Mankiewicz hired Murphy to play the titular role in 1958's film The Quiet American. Murphy performed a partnership with Harry Joe Brown to make 3 films, starring with the Guns of Fort Petticoat. The partnership fell into disagreement over the remaining 2 projects, and Brown filed suit against Murphy. In 1957, Murphy was cast as the Utica Kid, along with James Stewart and Dan Dorea in the Western Night Passage. Murphy is also featured in 3 Westerns in 1959, starring opposite Sandra Dee in The Wild and the Innocent. Collaborated with, as an uncredited co-producer, was Walter Mirisch on The Black and White, Cast a Long Shadow, and performed as a hired killer in No Name on the Bullet, a film that was well received by critics. Thelma Ritter was his co-star in the 1960 Startime television episode The Man. During the 1960s, Murphy donated his time and otherwise lent his name and image for 3 episodes of the Big Picture TV series produced by the United States Army. He received the 1960 Outstanding Civilian Service Medal for cooperation on the episode Broken Bridge, which he featured visits to military installations in Germany, Italy, Turkey, and the United States state of New Mexico to showcase military's latest weaponry. Writer Claire Huffaker wrote in the 1961 screenplay for Murphy's films 7 Ways from Sundown and Posse from Hell. Willard W. Willingham and his wife, Mary Willingham, befriended Murphy in his early days in Hollywood and worked with him on a number of other projects. Willard was a producer of the 1961 television series Whispering Smith and co-wrote a screenplay for The Battle at Bloody Beach that year. He collaborated with the Bullet for a Bad Man in 1964 and Arizona Raiders in 1965. The Willinghams had, as a team, wrote the screenplay for Gunpoint, as well as the script for Murphy's last starring lead in the Western 40 Guns to Apache Pass in 1967. Murphy made Trunk to Cairo in Israel in 1866. He first met director Bud Boddicker when Murphy requested to be his boxing partner at Terry Hunt's athletic club. He had subsequently appeared in the 1951 title role of Boddicker's first western, The Cimarron Kid. Boddicker wrote the script in 1969 for Murphy's last film, A Time for Dying. Two other projects that Murphy and Boddicker planned to collaborate on, A Horse for Mr. Barnum and When There's Something to Do, never came to fruition. Now, in 1971, on May 28th, that is today, you'll hear this tomorrow, Murphy was killed when the private plane in which he was a passenger crashed into the side of a mountain 14 nautical miles northwest of Roanoke, Virginia, in conditions of rain, clouds, fog, and zero visibility. Pilot and 4 other passengers were also killed. The aircraft was a twin-engine Aero Commander 680, flown by a pilot who had a private pilot license and reported 8,000 hours of flying time but held no instrument rating.
Well then.
The aircraft was recovered 3 days later. After her husband's death, Pamela Murphy moved into a small apartment and got a clerk position at the Spielvelda Veterans Administration Hospital in Los Angeles, where she would be employed for 35 years. Interestingly enough, there is a monument that was erected at the site of the crash that's is decorated with flowers probably every year. On the 7th of June, 1971, Murphy was buried with military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. In attendance was Ambassador to the UN George H.W. Bush, Army Chief of Staff William Westmoreland, many of the 3rd Infantry Division. Murphy's grave site is at Section 46, headstone number 4636611, located across Memorial Drive from the amphitheater. Now, because so many people go here to pay respects to this guy, the special flagstone walkway was later constructed to accommodate the large number of people that come by. Interestingly enough, it's the 2nd most visited gravesite. Want to guess who number 1 is?
I don't know.
He was a president.
That narrows it down to like 48.
Yeah. John F. Kennedy. Yeah. But it says the headstones of Medal of Honor recipients are buried at the Arlington National Cemetery are normally decorated in gold leaf. However, Murphy previously requested that his stone remain plain and inconspicuous like that of an ordinary soldier. The headstone does also contain the birth year 1924, based on the purportedly falsified materials among his military records. Again, in 1974, a large granite marker was erected just off the Appalachian Trail at the 3,100 feet elevation near the crash site. Also in 1875, the court awarded Murphy's widow Pamela and their 2 children $2.5 million in damages because of the accident. Civilian honors were bestowed upon Murphy during his lifetime and posthumously. He also gained a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And in 2013, Murphy was honored by his home state with the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor. But yeah, that's the story behind Audie Murphy, one of the most decorated U.S. soldier to date. I mean, it's incredible how many medals this guy won. And a lot of times, he was doing it just to protect his friends, keep his friends alive. Again, climbing on top of a burning tank destroyer, grabbing a machine gun, and holding down the enemy.
All I can say is I like you, but I don't know if I like you that much.
Keep giving me belts of ammunition. I'll show you what I can do. But this has been the Bearded Historian. You folks have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
Bah humbug.